Hi everyone, welcome back in another project where we're going to be creating this sales manager application. So that's the design of our application. So we're going to use TypeScript, we're going to use Zod, React Hook Form, Zustand, and also we're going to use Tanstack React Table to be able to create this awesome table. So also we're having the ability to be able to search the by customer name, and also we're having the light and the dark mode. So these are the basic stuff. And also this is fully responsive, as you can see. So when the size screen is like this, so you can be able to clearly see all the elements accordingly. And here we're having some numbers, and down here we're having the priorities, so I can be able to filter by the priorities, as you can see. And here we're having the button to be able to download the table as CSV, sorry. So when I click on the button, as you can see, the file has been created. So when I click on open, so here we can be able to see all the information in our file. So that's a cool element. And for our table, so I added the sorting. So as you can see, we can be able to sort. So everything is managed by a Tanstack React table. And also I can be able to change how many rows that I want. And depending on the rows, as you can see, the pages are going to be changing, but also the buttons in here. So I can be able to go from one page to another. If, for example, I select 4 rows, so here I'm going to have 4 pages that I can uh, select. So, and if I want, for example, to go to the last page, all I have to do is to click on this button. And if I want to go back to the first page, I can click on this icon. So everything is handled by React or Tanstack React table. So the next thing that I'm going to show you is how we can be able to add the new cells. So we're going to be clicking on this button. And also this form is completely responsive, as you can see. So because we're using Shadcn, and I did some, so let me open this up, and I did some adjustments so you can be able to have it like this. So we're having the customer name and the sale value, the status. So we're having a drop down and the priority, and also we can be able to change the date. So we're going to use the Shadcn calendar component for this, and also we're going to be able to change the salesperson. So for whatever reason, if I didn't type in the customer name and I click on add sale, as you can see, I'm going to have an error. So let me add the customer name. So just for simple test, and I'm going to add the sale value. And as you can see, the value is going to be formatted automatically because we're going to use another library to be able to make this happen easily. So when I click on add sale, so we're going to have the load in, and here as you can see we're having the notification, and the sale has been added successfully. And also we're having the 3 dots action. So we're going to have this drop down. We can be able to copy if we want it. So when I click on copy, as you can see, the sale has been copied successfully. So let's take this one, and let's try to edit the actual sale. So as you can see, we're going to have all the information loaded up into the same dialog that we use to be able to create the sales. I'm going to show you everything, how I did this. And let me change the status, and I'm going to change the priority. So let's change the contact date and the salesperson and click on edit. So as you can see, the element has been updated successfully, and notice that the information or all the numbers here are going to be updated accordingly. So and finally, we can be able to delete the actual cell. So we're going to have this cool dialog. So when I click on delete, so and after that, we're going to have this popping up. And as you can see, the cell has been deleted successfully. So that's what we're going to be creating. So we're going to learn a lot of things in this project as and I shared with you the stack that we're going to be using. So if you are interested about creating this project, so stick with me till the end of this video. Hi, welcome back. So as you can see, I already created the project and it is up and running. So I'm going to show you very quickly how we can be able to install next.js and also to install Shadcn component and install the Poppins font that we're going to use for our project. So the first thing that we're gonna go to the next.js website and also make sure to install the node.js into your system and copy this and paste it into your terminal. So we'll be asked all of these questions. So we're gonna choose only the default options and also make after choosing the name of the project, of course. So after doing this, what we're gonna do, since this at this time using Next.js 15, and the Next.js 15 is using React 19, and the problem that we're gonna run to is installing some packages. So because the final version of React 19 is not released yet, so I'm gonna downgrade to React 18. And to be able to do this, what we are gonna do, so here into the Shadcn, they are already talking about this in this page, and this is the problem that we're going to run into when we want to install any package with React Native. So they are having two solutions. So the solution that I opted for is downgrading to React 18. So make sure to copy this and paste it into your terminal and hit enter. So after that, you should see here into the dependencies property in the package.json, the version changed to 18.3.1 for React and React DOM. So after setting this up, what we're going to do, we need to install Shadcn. So it's very simple. In the installation page, choose Next.js and copy this and go back to your terminal and paste it in here. So after doing this, so as you can see, I already installed the Shadcn, so you will have all of these uh, pre-verified, and you will have, so we're going to choose the default options like this. So, and as you can see here, I had this problem because I'm using React 19. So after that, what I did, I downgraded to React 18. So, and after when the installation has been successful with Shadcn, you should see the component.json, and also you should see this lib folder. And if we go to the global.css, we should see all of this code in the global.css. So this is how you will know if Shadcn has been installed successfully. And after that, what we're going to do, we're going to go to the layout.tsx to be able to install the Poppins font. So here we are going to import the Poppins objects from this module. And here we're going to create our Poppins variable by using the Poppins object with these properties. And finally, inside the body tag, we're going to use the poppin.class name and the class name of it. So this is how we are going to set our Poppins for our project. And if we go to the page, as you can see, because we're rendering this phrase, this is a home page. So just to see if the font has been set successfully in our project. So after setting up our project, the next thing that I did, I created the nav bar. So this is the design of our simple nav bar. We're having the logo and we're having the name of the application, the search bar, And finally, we're having this. So this part, we are going to add the light and the dark mode drop down. So I just added the icon here. And for the icons, we're going to use React icons. So this is the website that we're going to use to be able to install and choose the icons that we want. And to be able to use this website, we're going to install the package. So they have a package in the npm website. And the first thing that uh, we need to do, we need to install this. So make sure to copy this and paste it in your terminal here. So I've already done this. So here, as you can see, so this is the installation. And after installing this, we're going to install the card and the input and the button components from Shadcn. So for this time, for at this moment, we're going to use these components, but as our application grows, we are going to add more Shadcn components. And before I start talking about this code, also I want to show you how we can be able to change the color since we're using Shadcn. So make sure to go to the themes page in the Shadcn website and click on the customize here, and you can pick whatever color that you want. So after choosing the color, go to the copy, click on the copy button. So you're gonna have this dialog. Copy this and go back to your project and the global.css. So make sure to delete the old layer base and paste the new one and hit save. So after doing this, you should see the color of the application changed. So this is the initial setup of everything that we need to be able to start using our application and create our nav bar. So I'm going to show you how we are going to structure the files in our application. So let me close this and let me close this as well. So the first thing that I did, I created this components folder. So in this components folder, we are going to add all the main components that we're going to use for our application. So now we're using the navbar.jsx and we are importing this navbar.jsx inside the page.jsx. So this is the home functional component, which is the main page of our application. And here what we're doing in the main div, we are adding a little bit of margin and we are going to use a card component where we are going to place all the elements of our application as you saw in the thumbnail of this video. And the first component that we are going to show, of course, is the navbar. So of course, we need to create the navbar.jsx. So I placed it inside the components folder and those are the elements that we're going to import. So this is the shopping bag icon, and this for the light icon, and this for the add icon. And those are the elements imported from Shadcn. And this is the element or the functional component. So we're having the main div with all of these utility classes. And one thing that I didn't show you that this is dynamic, as you can see, at a certain size, the actual name of the application is hidden just to be able to make sure that the space between the search bar and the logo still here. And so here inside, after the div, we're having the header. So the header, it's going to have the icon, and this is how we are gonna use the icon, and also make sure to add for the background primary to be able to use the actual color that we set in the global.css. And for the h1 tag, so this is the name of the application. And as you can see here, we're using this media query. So once we hit the 768 pixel, it's going to be hidden. And this is what I showed you. And next we're having this div, And this is where we're going to show the input and the here the button. And here in this part, we're going to add the drop down to be able to switch between the dark mode and the light mode. And we're going to use this from Shadcn. So it's very simple to be able to set this up. So this is basically how we can be able to create this component. And also another thing that I want to show you is how we are going to place this button inside this input. So what I did here, I created this button inside this div, and this div it's going to have the absolute position, and here make sure to add the uh, this div the relatives, just to make sure that this is going to stay within this the button is going to stay within this div. So this is basically how we can be able to make this button look like this inside the input. So after setting up our nav board, the next thing that I added is the dark mode. So here, when I click on the button, we're going to have this drop down. And when I choose the dark, as you can see, everything turns to dark. And we can go back to the light mode if we want to. So the steps are pretty simple to install it. So we're gonna use Shadcn. But the first thing that we need to do, we need to install the drop-down menu. So make sure to copy this and paste it in your terminal. So I've already done this. And after that, in the Shadcn, what we're gonna do, we're gonna we'll look for the dark mode. So click on the dark mode. So we're going to choose the next.js. So these are all the steps needed to be able to install the dark mode. So the first thing that we're going to do, we are going to install this. So after doing this, we need to copy this code, and we are going to go to the app folder. And what I did, I created the theme provider.jsx and just paste the code in here. So after that, the third step, we need to wrap our root layout with the theme provider component. So here, go to the layout.jsx, and here inside the body, so I didn't copy and paste because I'm using this class name, but make sure inside the body use the suppress hydration warning, because this gonna throw this warning, but it's not gonna impact negatively the project. So inside the body tag, make sure to add this this code as they are saying in their tutorial. And after that, we're gonna add the dark mode component. So here, so this is the code that they are providing. So I just used their code. So what I did, I created the mode toggle.tsx and just paste the code that they are providing from their website, and you are ready to go. So here, as you can see, we're using the dropdown. So that's why I said that we need to install the dropdown first. So, and as you can see, everything is working fine. So you don't have to do anything by yourself. So everything is going to be running for you to change between the light and the dark mode. And the next elements that I added, these three cards to show some stats to the user. So we're going to have the total sales, the deals on progress, and the conversion rate. And this is the design of each card. And it is completely responsive. So as you can see, when we reach a certain size, all of these cards are going to be at the top of each other, just to be able to see clearly all the elements, even with this screen size. So I'm going to show you how I was able to do this. But before I start talking about this, I made an update in the code for the font. So I noticed that the Poppins font wasn't working as expected. So what I did, I added some of the things here. So this is the Poppins object that I'm using. And here I'm using the Poppins that variable instead the Poppins that class name, and the global.css. I added this Poppins class that it's going to use the font Poppins variable. And finally, in the page.jsx, I added the Poppins in the root div so so it applies to all the elements in our application. So now let's go back to the cards, and here inside the components folder, I created the stats card. So here we're having all the code to be able to set up all the cards. So we are importing all the elements, the card from the Shadcn, React, and the React node because we're going to use it for the typing. The all, and these are the icons that we're going to use in each card. So the first thing that we're doing, we're defining the structure of each single card. So we're having the title, the value, and the icon. It's going to be of type React node. So this is what we imported here from React. And this is the core element of our functional components. So the first thing that we're going to do, we're going to create our array. So since we're having three elements or three cards, we're going to use three objects. And here I should add the type that I created above, and it's going to be an array. So we need to add uh, the brackets. So we're having the title, the value, and the icon. So we are adding directly the each icon inside the icon property since the icon is a React node type. And here we are going to return and we are going to iterate through each element inside this object like this. And we are importing the single stat card for to render like this the card that we want. So first, let me explain what's happening in here inside the class name of this div. So here we're using by default the grid, and the grid calls 3 since we're using 3 elements. So we're going to have 3 colon. And here, once we hit, so we're going to use this media query. Once we hit 640 pixel, it's going to be of colon 1, just to make sure that all the elements are going to be aligned each other. And here we're adding some margin, some gap, and some padding. So here we're going to use the stats array, and for each element, we're going to pass inside the single stat card. So for this single stat card, so this is the definition of the prompt. So this is how it's going to look like. And we're going to call again the single card type. And here we're going to use directly the card component from the Shadcn, and this is the structure of the GSX of each card. So here we're having the header. So inside the header, we're having the title, inside the span, and the icon. And at the bottom, we're going to have the amount, and we're going to set the text size like this, and the font it's going to be bold, and we're going to use the value property of the single card that we are passing it as a prompt from the parent component, which is this one. So this is basically how we can be able to create this. And as you can see, even if when I turn the dark mode, everything looks good, everything looks awesome. And since I applied the Poppins font, the application or everything is looking even cooler. And the next thing that I added is this part. So we're having the tabs to be able to filter easily the priority or the elements by priority just from here, and also the button to be able to download the table or the information as CSV file. And notice here when I'm changing the element into the tabs list. So also the value changes from here. So because this is where we're going to put our table underneath all this component. And also when I turn the dark mode on, as you can see, everything looks pretty good. And also it is responsive. So as you can see, as I'm changing the elements. As you can see, we can be able to see clearly all the elements here, and I'm going to show you how to be able to make this component fully responsive. So let's go back to the VS Code, and the first element that I did, I created this tabs table area folder inside the components folder just to make things structured and organized for our project. And here I created the table area.jsx, and I called the table area here from the home functional component. And also to be able to use the tabs, so we need to install the Shadcn component by using this cell-like command in your terminal. So after that, you are going to have inside the lib folder, or sorry, inside the components UI folder, the table.tsx. So after setting this up, so I'm gonna start explaining what's happening inside the table area.jsx, and I'm gonna do my best to be able to explain this. So here we're gonna have some couple of imports, the use state from React and the components. And notice here we're gonna use the tab list, the tabs trigger, and the tabs contents. I'm going to show you this how it is working in our GSX. And finally, we're going to have this icon from React icon for this one, for this icon in our button. So the first thing that we're going to do, of course, after creating the functional components, so we're going to set or to create the tab items array that we're going to use to be able to create our tabs. And of course, when we start working, when we start making our application functionable, so that this is going to be updated. And here we're going to save the state by creating the active tab. So whenever we are changing the element like this, what's going to happen is we are going to save the state inside the active tab because we're going to use it in the areas as I'm going to show you. So finally, we're going to get into our GSX. So we're going to use the card component from Shadcn. And here, as you can see, I'm getting rid from the shadow um, and I'm adding a little bit of margin just to be able to add some space between the card and the cards that we are using to show the statistics. And here we're going to use this div. The reason why I did so, because we're going to use at the bottom of this div that handles all the tabs, we're going to use the pagination area that we're going to create in a separate functional component. So here we're adding a little bit of padding. And here we're going to start using our tabs component. And here we're going to add the value and the on value change. So the value we are going to store the active tab. And whenever the value changes, we're going to update the active tab by using the set active tab inside this function. And this it's the class name. And here we're going to use this div. So this part is for the tabs. And if I collapse this, so we're going to have the part which is the button and everything inside this div that handles the positioning of these two elements. So I'm going to get into the utility classes here because we're having a bunch of them because we're using some media queries. So that's why it seems a little bit long. So here we're using the justify between just to make sure that these elements are going to be positioned like this and a little bit of margin at the bottom. And here we're using the media query. So when we hit 768 pixel, it's going to turn to the flex colon just to make sure that these two elements are going to be at the top of each other like this. So that's why we did use this media query, and also we did use some gap in this side screen, and also we are using the item start. And here inside the table list, so we're gonna use again these media queries, and also we're going to change a little bit the styling of the tab since it is a Shadcn component. So we want it to be like this. So that's why we added here inside the tabs list class name, we did add some height. And also when we reach this 640 pixel, the height it's going to be 132 pixel. And also the width, it's going to be 100% when we reach the 640 pixel. So here we're going to use the tabs item array just to be able to show all of the elements like this. So of course we're going to use the map function, and right after that we're going to use the tab trigger. So this tabs trigger, it's going to be each element that we're having inside the tabs list. So it's going to have the value property, the key, and the class name to be able to change the styling whenever we click on a tab, and the onClick event listener to be able to trigger the click. And here inside of it, we're gonna use the label inside the span tag, and also we're gonna use the count in another span. And also here we're using this logic, the Sternia operator, to be able to change the color. So as you can see, we're changing the color uh, of the number whenever we activate one of these tabs. So this is what we're doing. And finally, we're having the button. And the for the content, which is this part, so we're going to use again another map function, and we're going to use again tabs item. So we're going to directly use the tabs content, and we're going to use the value, and to be able to know which item that we're going to show, we're going to just see if the active tab is equal to the tab value that we're using inside this area. So if this condition is true, then we're going to show only the value. As I said here, we are going to add our filtered table. So when we start working using React Table from Tanstack. And finally, this part, as I said, it's going to be for the pagination. So this is how we can be able to create this element. And the last thing that I added in our homepage is this pagination section at the bottom. So as you can see here, we're having the select component to be able to change how many rows that we want to show each page. And also we're having the next and previous control buttons to be able to go from one page to another one. So, and also notice here when I turn the dark mode on, so the background, it's going to be a little bit gray. So it's not going to be dark as we did for the other elements. And I'm going to show you how to be able to do this while using the package that we use for the dark mode theme. So let's go back to the VS Code, and the first thing that I did, I created this pagination folder. So we're gonna put inside of it the pagination area, which is the main component of our pagination section, and the pagination selection.tsx that handles this part here. So, and of course, to be able to use this pagination area component, we need to use it at the bottom of our table area component. So that's why I added this comment just to know where I'm going to place the component. So let's talk about the pagination area. So we're having a bunch of code here. So the first thing that we need to do as usual is the imports. So we need to import all the elements to be able to make this part functionable. So this part is for the icons, and here we're using the use theme. So as I said, I'm going to show you how to change the colors while using the use theme hook from the next themes package. And here we are importing the pagination selection that we are positioning it in here. And finally, we're using the elements from React. So here we are importing the theme because here, as you can see, we are using this condition. So if the theme is equal to dark, the background, so we're going to use this utility class for the background as gray 900, otherwise it's going to be white, and we're going to store the returning result inside the background color, and we're going to use it in the class name. So once we get into the JSX, I'm going to explain this. And here I'm adding this is client and set is client because with Next.js, all the components are server side by default, and sometimes we run into some hydration issues. And just to make sure that the component is fully loaded to the client and goes from the server to the client to avoid having the hydration issue, because this is what I had. I did this trick. So only when we're going to use the use effect hook. So when the component is fully mounted, we're going to set the is client as true. So if it is not false, we're going to return true, null, sorry. So when it is true, this is going to be ignored and we're going to go directly to the GSX. So this is how this logic works. So finally, we're going to go to the GSX and we're having a lot of code in here. So that's the parent div we're using inside the class name, all of these utility classes. So as you can see, there are many of them. So we're using the width as full, the height 80 pixel, and when we reach this size, the height it's going to be a little bit bigger because we need to put all of these elements like this. So that's why we did the height as this, and also the padding at the top it's going to be a little bit higher. Also at the bottom, the overflow is going to be hidden. And this is how we are going to use the background state in here, depending on the theme, whether it is dark or light. And finally, we're having these remaining utility classes just to make sure that all the elements are going to be at the top of each other. And we're going to use this media query. We're going to use the flex colon and also a little bit of gap between these elements. Then we're going to use the pagination selection. So I'm going to get into it. And all of these are the buttons. So these are all the buttons that we're going to use. Uh, so they are they are respectively like this. So this is if we want to go to the first, uh, directly to the first page, and this for the last page, and this to be able to go to the next or the previous page or the previous table. So, and those are the buttons. And notice here, commenting all of these elements. So, because here, these are going to be, we're going to use the table object from Tanstack. So I just commented this like this, just to know how, when I'm going to start using the React table, so I don't have to type them again. So that's why I did so. So this is the component. And finally, I'm going to go to the pagination selection. So nothing complex here. So here we're going to use the select component. And here we're going to return this GSX. And what I did, I just got this from the Shadcn like this. And I did the minor changes. So here in the select icon, so instead of just hard coding the items, I'm going to use this area like this to be able to map through and show all the elements based on the numbers that we're having inside the area. Of course, we need to import all of these components. And as I showed you, to be able to render this, we need to import it in this position. And this is how things are working. And finally, we're having all of this. So the only thing that is missing in uh, in this page, which is the most core one is the table, and this is what we are going to work into the next stage of our project. So after we created the tabs area and this button, the next thing that I added is this table, as you can see, by using React Table and the table component from Shadcn. So this is our table with these columns, and also I added the checkbox to be able to select the elements that we want. Uh, and all of that, we are using the Shadcn to be able to get that kind of look. And right now, nothing is functionable, but I want to just show you all the steps needed to be able to create this table. So I'm going to go back to our project and I'm going to show you what I created. And along the way, I'm going to show you all the dependencies that we need to be able to install successfully what I showed you. So I'm going to start from the Shadcn uh, website, and I'm gonna start from this tutorial where they are showing how to use Tanstack along with Shadcn to be able to create this table. So here they are having all the details needed, and this is what I relied upon to be able to use React Table for all their projects. And so we're going to start from by installing these elements, the table component from Shadcn, and we need to install React Table from Tanstack. So after doing this, let's go back to our VS Code. And the first thing that I did, I need to add this sales column.tsx. So what they're showing here, um, so here they are telling us that we need to create a column array, as you can see. So here, of course, we're going to change the data according to what we are having in our application. And this is the same thing that we're doing here. But of course, are gonna be different. So here, as you can see, we are importing the column diff from the Tanstack React table, but also we are using the checkbox and the patch from the Shadcn. So if you didn't install them, so it's very simple, go back to your Shadcn and just type in here badge and checkbox. And here they are showing you the CLI command to be able to install the component. So let's go back to our file. So here we're having the ID for the checkbox that we are using at the first column. So this is how we are gonna be using. So here we're using the ID, so we are naming it select, and the header, it's gonna be we are going to return a function, a GSX function with the checkbox, and here we're using the function from the table just to be able to automatically select the elements that we clicked on. So everything is going to be handled by React table. And here for each row, we are going to render this for each element with the checkbox. And here, this for the customer name, this for the deal value, this for the status. And here for the status, as you can see here, to be able to render it like this, we're going to use the batch component from Shadcn with these utility classes. And this is the single element that we're having here. And here we're having the contact. Here, as you can see, we are using some the format function. So this format function, if we go all the way up, so it is from this component or this library. So this library, make sure to install this. So I installed the version 3.6.0 because I had some issues with this latest version. So I installed this version. So make sure to copy this and paste it in terminal, install it in your project before you can use it. So that's gonna make things easier for formatting the date. And this is what we're having here. So that's the output. And here we're having the salesperson, the priority. So the priority here, as you can see, we're using the if statements just to be able to render the colors based on the priority. So as you can see, high is red, medium is yellow, and low is green. And to be able to do this, we're going to use this if statement. And here we're creating the priority color variable state. So it's going to be empty, of course. So depending on the priority that is coming from the row object, so depending on the if it is equal to low, so we're going to um, assign these utility classes. And so we're going to use the priority color right inside the class name to be able to render the color based on the priority. And finally, we're having the ID action. So the ID action, as you can see, when I click on it, we're going to have this drop down. So to be able to have this drop down, as you can see, we are returning this component and we are going to pass inside of it the actual row that we clicked on. So actually this drop down, it is in another file within another folder. So this is the file that we're using. It is called action drop down. So that's what I called it. And first make sure to install the drop down menu component. So all you have to do again, go back to Shadcn and we're going to look for the drop down menu. And all you have to do is to install it like this, copy the CLI command and go back to your terminal and install it and import all these elements. All you have to do first, copy all of these and paste them in here. So this is the actual dropdown. As you can see, here we're accepting this row and this is the type. So it's going to be a row from the task stack, and within it, we're going to pass the cell type interface. So the first thing here that we're doing, we're going to create this menu items array. So those are the elements that we're going to be showing inside the dropdown. And here we are using the GSX or the UI components that we installed. And so what I did, just copied this and I pasted it in here. I just did some adjustments, like for example here, what I'm going to do inside or within the drop-down menu content, I'm going to use the menu items that map to be able to iterate through each element inside the menu items, and then to be able to render each element, we're going to use the drop-down menu item. And so these are the utility classes inside the class name. So this for the icon and this for the item label. And this is basically how we can be able to create a dropdown and to be able to create this whole table. So as I showed you only the elements, how we can be able to show the table. And one last thing that I was going to forget, which is the most important thing, is how we are going to be rendering this table once we created all of this. So to be able to do this, the first thing that I'm going to show you, I'm going to show you the data or the mockup data that I created. And this is the array, the sales data array. And of course, it's going to be sales cell type. And we're using the brackets just to tell Typescript that's going to be an array. And here, so that's the definition of each element or each row. So as you can see, so we're having all of these properties. And for the sales status, it's going to be union types as well as the sale priority. So once we created our data and our types, The next thing that we are going to do, we are going to create this table area.jsx. Sorry, the sales table.jsx. And this, what I did, all you have to do is go to the page here, and what you are going to do, you are going to go to the second step that mentions data table component. Just copy this and paste it in here. So this is what you are going to do, and go back to the table area, and here at the bottom inside this statement, um, so within the span tag, so that's why I added the table comment, just to not get confused and to know where I'm going to put the sales table. So the sales table is going to accept two properties, the columns and the data. So the sales columns, it's going to come from this file. So make sure to import it up here. And also for the sales data, it's going to come from the sales data.ts that I just showed you. So once you've done all of this, just save your project and reload the page, and you're going to have this awesome table. So now, as you can see, this is the final look of our project. So it's looking good so far. So before we are going to start making our table functionable, the next thing that we're going to be doing, we're going to be creating our uh, our form to be able to add the elements. So we need, so what I'm doing here, I'm creating the UI first, then I'm gonna make things functionable. But before we start working on the form, um, first what I decided to do is to work um, on the filter. So as you can see right now, we're having these numbers that are real coming from the numbers that we're having, or the items that we're having inside the area. So when I click on the high priority, as you can see, we're gonna only see the deals that have the priority high. So the same thing for the medium and the same thing for the priority and for the low priority. And another thing that I added is the search. So we can be able to search just from here. So as you can see, everything is working well as we are typing the customer name that we're looking for. So the table will be responded automatically and live while using all the features that are coming from the Tanstack React table. So I'm going to show you how to be able to do this. So let's go back to the VS Code, and the first thing that I want to uh, to uh, talk about is the change that I did inside the table area. So inside the table area, um, here, as you can see, I extended the code. The reason why, because instead of using the sales table and creating the code and importing it and using it inside the table area. So I used the table uh, directly inside the table area. The reason why I did so, because I want to use this uh, use React table hook, and just to make things simpler without having to put this inside another functional component. So that's why I did it right inside the table area component. So also make sure at the bottom inside the table cell tag, make sure to add the table that get colons that length. So that's the first change that I did. And the second thing that I'm going to show you how to be able to filter like the tabs right here. So how you can be able to create the logic to be able to filter only the elements or the deals that that have the priority that we selected. So the first thing that I did is I created this filter data. So we're going to use the use memo hook uh, just for optimization. Want to make sure that only this is going to be active whenever the active tab state changes. So when we click on the tab, this is going to be triggered. So if the active tab is equal to all, so we're going to just return the sales data. Otherwise, we are going to execute the filter and we're going to uh, use the filter method, and based on the priority that we are selected inside the active tab, we're going to just extract only the element that has the priority that we are selected or that it is stored inside the active tab. So by doing so, after that, what we're going to do here inside the use React table, so we are going to assign the filtered data to the data and the sales columns to the column. And I'm going to get into these elements. So after doing this, like the filtering of the priority, it's going to work successfully. So after that, I'm going to show you how to be able to do the search like this. And first, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back to our page to the Shadcn tutorial, the official tutorial to use Tanstack React Table. So the first thing that we are going to do, so we are going to ignore some of the things that here because we need to adapt some of the things that depending on the structure of our application, we need to adapt some of the things to our application. So the first thing that we are going to do, we need to import the column filter state and the get filtered row model. So that's what I did. If we go all the way at the top, so I added them inside our import. And then here, so we need to add these elements except the sorting. So we're gonna work on the sorting later on. And this is what I did inside the use React table. So I added the on filters change and the get filter row model. And inside the state object, we added the column filters. So that's the first thing. And the second thing that I want to show you is because the search input is in another component, which is the navbar component. So what I did, if we go to the parent component, which is the home functional component, as you can see, I'm creating the search query state. So it's going to be by default empty, and we're going to use the use state hook, of course. So if we go to the navbar, so what we're going to do, we are going to pass inside the navbar component the set search query. So if we go in here, as you can see, we are going to pass this, the set search query, and we are going to use it inside the onChange event listener. And also, I think that we need to use the query. So we need to use the query state. So I'm gonna add it right now. So that's something that I forgot. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back to the navbar, to the home component, and here I'm going to add the query state like this. So, sorry, the search query, and I'm going to modify the prompt. Let's go back to the navbar, and I think that so we're having the red line because it's not used yet, and we're going to use it with the value property of the input tag. So let's reload the page and let's see if things are working. So as you can see, everything is working fine. And another thing that I didn't mention, even if we are um, selecting the tab that we want. We are filtering by the priority. The search is going to be only within the actual elements or the deals that we are selecting by the priority. So that's an awesome thing. So once we did this, what we're going to do, so let's go back to the page.jsx. So because the search query, so we're going to store the elements that we are typing inside the input. So we're going to use this search query and we're going to pass it inside the table area. And of course, we need to add it in here into the prompt as a string. And over here, what we're going to do, we're going to add the colon filters. So that's something that is stated in their official doc. And here at the bottom, we're going to use the use effect hook. And every time the search query, the table changes. So we're going to use the table that get column. So we're going to get the column that we want to search by, and we're going to add the set filter value, and we're going to add inside of it the search query. So I hope that I explained everything in here and how things are working. So as you can see, everything is working fine. So I think that before we are going to go to the form, we need first to add the sorting, and also we need to work on the pagination. So the next functionality that I added for our table is the sorting. So as you can see, the sorting right now is fully functionable. And now everything is sorted by the deal value. So when I click on the deal value, as you can see, so it's going to be sorted ascendantly. And when I click on another column, so the sorting, it's going to be for the customer name. And notice here that to be able to distinguish between the columns, which one is sorted currently. So I added this color. So as you can see, all the columns are sorted successfully, even when we uh, select the priority, we're still the priority is still sorted. So I'm going to show you how to be able to do this. And the first thing that I'm going to start from is the page from the Shadcn, their tutorial, to be able to install all the functionalities needed for our table. So we're going to go to the sorting section. So as you can see here, they're saying to us we need to update our data table. But for our case, we didn't use the code for rendering the table in another component. We used it right into the table area in here. So the first thing that we should do at the top, we need to add the sorting state and the get sorted row model. So after doing this, we are going to add the sorting and the set sorting states, and they're going to be the type of sorting state. And after that, we're going to add the on sorting change, which is going to be assigned to the set sorting. We're going to be adding the get sorted row model, which is the get sorted row model function. And finally, we're going to add the sorting inside the state object. So that's the first step. The second thing here, if we go back to the tutorial, here they are telling us we need to add this element to be able to trigger the sorting. So actually what they're doing, they're adding a button inside the header and they're turning the header as a function. So for us, it's going to be a little bit changing to be able to create that kind of result that I showed you. So if we go to the sales column.tsx, as you can see, we're doing the same thing, but here, what we're doing, we're calling this sortable header component, and that each header, so it's going to be called for each header. So instead of using a function, and copying and pasting it. So we're going to create one function and reuse it over all the columns just to make sure that our code is clean and reusable. So here, the sorted column, it's going to accept two elements, the column, which is the column object from the function, and the label. So the label, it's going to be different on the header that we are in. So now I'm going to show you how I created the functions. So that's the sortable header. So it's gonna, as I showed you, it's gonna have the column and the label parameters, and the type is the interface sortable header props. So the column, it's gonna be this. So I just got this type from here. All you have to do is just hover over the column and you will get the type of the column. Just paste this in here and copied it from there, and I paste it in here, and the label is going to be string. So after this, we're gonna see if the column is sortable by using the get is sorted function from React from Tanstack. And here we're going to return a button. So this button, it's going to have the class name. So to be able to set the color of the sorted column, we are going to use the is sorted. So if it is true, we are going to use the text primary, which is the actual color that we are using. And each time that we are clicking on the column, this is going to be triggered. And we're going to show the label, which is coming from the prop, and the sorting icon. So the sorting icon is in another function to be able to render the icon uh, depending on the sorting element. So if it is ascendant, so we're going to use this column or this icon. Otherwise, we're going to use this icon. So if the column is not sorted, so we're going to use the up and down icon. So we're calling this function here right into the button, since this function returns a JSX element, which are these icons. And here, what we're going to do, so we're having one function and we're going to reuse it over all the headers, as you can see. So we're going to pass the colon and we're going to change the label. So that's the best way to be able to use our code rather than just reuse it or copy and paste it over and over again to make our code cleaner. So, and this is how we can create our sorting functionality. So the last thing that is remaining for our table is the pagination. So I'm going to work on this and I'll be back to explain all the steps that I did. So the next and the final functionality that we're going to be adding to our table is we can select how many rows that we want to show for our table. And notice here, as you can see, depending on the rows that we're having here, so this is going to be changing. So when I select 4 rows, as you can see, we're going to have 4 pages instead of 3. And if I select 15, so here we're showing all the uh, rows. And notice here, uh, the buttons are disabled because that's the only page that we're having in our table. And it's gonna work along with the sorting and also the search, as you can see. So I'm gonna start from this cool tutorial provided by Shadcn. And so go to the pagination section. So the thing that we're gonna be adding is the get pagination row model. And also we're going to be adding the get pagination row model inside the table. Um, and this is what I did in here. So if we go to the table area.tsx all the way at the top, so this is what I did. I added the get pagination row model. And in here at the bottom, I added the get pagination role model. But we're going to be adding other things that weren't mentioned into the tutorial. So what I added is the first is the pagination and the set pagination. So it's going to be an object of two elements, the page index and the page size. So here we are defining the default elements that we want to show as 8 rows. And it's going to be a type pagination type. So that's we created. So we're just defining the type of each element. So these are going to be both numbers. So after doing this, what we're going to do, we are going to pass inside the pagination area function, which is this whole part at the bottom. So we're created it in another separate function just to make things organized and clean into our code. And here we are going to pass the table. We're going to pass the pagination and the set pagination. So if we go to the pagination, as you can see here, we're defining the prompts. So the table, it's going to be this type table and the sales table, sales type. And the pagination is going to be pagination type that we created it. So that's why we added the export keyword if we go all the way at the top. So we added the export so you can be able to use it inside the pagination area. But also we're going to be use it inside the pagination selection, which is the selection component that we're having in here. So after defining all the interfaces and the types for all the elements that we're going to be using, so here we are going to do first some changes in here. So this is going to be showing this part how many pages of the total pages that we are currently having. So this is what we are doing. So we're going to use the pagination dot the page index plus one, and we're going to use the table that we passed from the parent component, and we're going to use the get page count. So this is going to be counted automatically by the use React table provided by Tanstack. And here we're gonna inside the buttons. So what I did, if you remember, I was commenting these elements. So I uncommented those elements since we're having the items or the objects to work with, and we're talking about the table. So this for the first page. So if I want to go to the first directly to the first page, and this for the previous page. So we're using the previous page function, and when this uh, we're using the get can previous page again provided by Tanstack. So this, I think, if it is false, so it's going to be disabled. So as you can see, it is a Boolean type. So if it is false, it's going to be disabled. And this for the next page, we're using these built-in functions. And lastly, we're using these built-in functions as well for the last page button. If we go directly to the last page, if we're having too many pages. And finally, I'm going to show you how to be able to change the rows whenever we are selecting the elements in here. So again, the pagination selection is the component that I just showed you, and we are going to pass inside of it these two elements. So if we go to the pagination selection, so we need first to define our props. And again, we're going to use the pagination type from the table area. And here we're going to add the value and the onChange event listener inside the select object. And here we're going to add the value inside the selected item, which is the size that to string. And here the select value, the placeholder, it's going to be pagination that page that to string. So this is basically how we can be able to create our table. So we added the sorting, we added the filtering, so we can be able to filter by the search or by the priority. And finally, we added the pagination at the bottom, so everything is working fine. So now we can be able to go to the next section, which is creating our form to be able to add the objects or the sales into our table. So after completing our table, the next thing that I added is the form to be able to add a new cell. So when I click on the button, on the add button, as you can see, we're going to have this awesome form to be able to add an item. So it's not functionable yet, but I want to just show you the structure of our form and how to be able to create the form the right way before we can use Zod and React Hook form to make this form functionable. So we're going to have the customer name, the sale value, the status. So we're going to have a drop down here to be able to choose the status. And also we're going to have the priority. And also we're going to use the calendar component from Shadcn to be able to select the actual date. And finally, we're going to have the sales person. So I added these beforehand just to be able to track each input, and based on the React Hook form that we're going to use. It is a popular library to be able to manage and track the inputs and manage the errors. So based on this, we're going to show the errors at the bottom. So I put them beforehand. So just to know how things are looking, and also to get an idea of how to position them and how the form is going to look like at the end. And when I click on cancel, so we are gonna exit our form. So let's go back to the VS Code. And here, as you can see, I created a brand new folder called the deal dialog. So this, it's going to have the main component, which is the deal dialog.jsx. And here in our JSX, as you can see, we are using all the elements needed to be able to make the form functionable. So we're going to use the dialog component. So all of these are imported from Shadcn. So make sure first to install the dialog component. So just type in the dialog into the search bar and just add this into your terminal, this CLI command, and you'll be able to use the dialog. But also make sure to install the separator, since we're using here underneath the header, the separator, just to make the form look professional and neat. So after this, so here, as you can see, we are importing all of these components. So instead of using the components right inside the deal dialog.jsx, which is going to make our code crowded and not clean. So what I did, I took each component or each element like for the customer name. So I added it in its own function. So that's the customer name functional component. So here, as you can see, we're having simple stuff. We're having the label, we're having the input, and we're having this part for the error, and we're using the icon from React icon library. And what I'm doing here, if we go back to the deal dialog.tsx, we are importing it in here. So as you can see, all of these elements are inside the form tag. So make sure to add it inside the form tag. And in here, so these two parts, the customer name and the sales value, it's going to be within one div, and they are, and I'm using the grid utility class. And also, as you can see, I'm using the media query. One thing that I didn't show you, that this is, as you can see, is completely dynamic based on the size screen, so you can be able to see all the elements. So right now, the whole form taken the full screen of our page. So it's fully responsive. So that's the word that I was looking for. And so let's go back to the VS Code. And here we are using some dialog, some of the components. You can find them into the Shadcn. So this is a basic structure to be able to create a basic dialog, and this is what we are doing. So I'm going to show you the most important stuff, like for example the sale value. So it's going to be pretty much the same structure as the customer name. And if we go back to the deal value, we're having the status. So here the status, as you can see, we are headed towards the status.jsx. So here we are creating this array statuses, and so here we are creating the selected statuses just to be able to store the status that we clicked on. And here we are going to use the select tag. So that's something that I showed you inside the pagination area. So we're going to use the same thing. We're going to use the value. And whenever we are changing the select element, so this is going to be triggering. And here we are going to update the selected status. And here we are going to assert the value as part of the sales type, because here we are going to get only the status property from the sales type. So if we go back to the sales type, as you can see, the sales status, so we define some types or subtypes for the sales status by using the union type. So that's why we did this, just to make sure that we are using the elements inside the select safely in terms of types. That's the remaining code to be able to show the elements inside the selected component. So let's move on here. So here we're having the contact date picker. So here we're going to use the pop over. So the pop over, make sure to install it here. So this is what it's going to uh, help us. So if we go to again to the Shadcn, and let's go to the popover component. So if we click on the on this, where they are just demonstrating how it works. So we want, when we click on this element, so this calendar, it's going to be part of the popover. So here we need to install two elements. We need to install the popover and the calendar. So again, type in the calendar and just use this CLI command in your terminal, and you're ready to go. So here, as you can see, we're using the popover. So the trigger, it's going to be this button, and we're using the calendar icon, and also we're using this format function from the date FNS. So that's something we already installed. So we're going to reuse it again to be able to format our date. And here, the popover content, it's going to be the calendar. So so those are the just built-in properties that we're going to use. The selected is going to be date, the onSelect, the set date, and the mode it's going to be single, and the class name is going to be this one. So here finally we're using this to be able to show the error. So here we're having the salespeople, so nothing fancy in here. So we're going to use the same principle that we did for the stasis. So the only thing that's going to be changing is the salespeople array. And so that's it. So this part is the footer part, the button to be able to cancel, and here the button to be able to add the new cell. As I mentioned before, so I want to just show you how to be able to structure this form and how to create it in a clean way. So the thing that we're going to be adding, so we need to install Zod to be able to set our schema for the whole form, but also we need to use the React hook form to be able to trigger each element that we're having, or each input, each select component, and also uh, to be able to follow the errors if we have these by using this library. So after we created our form, now I set up the validation process. And here, as you can see, if we leave things empty despite of the select elements, and I click on add cell, so we're gonna have the errors, and also it's gonna work for the date. So if I click on add cell again, so we're gonna have all the inputs needed to be filled. Of course, we're gonna have an error, but when I type stuff in, and I'm gonna pick a date, and I click on add sale. So, and if we log things out, so let me clear our console and I click on add sale again. So we're gonna have our object, meaning that everything has been everything went successfully. So the only thing that I need to add to this object before we can add it into our table is the remaining elements, meaning the status, the priority, and the salesperson. But first, I want to show you the process, how to be able to set up Zod initially and React hook form. So let's go back to our VS Code. And first, we need to install the dependencies. So we're going to install React hook form, we're going to install Zod, and also the hook form resolver. So you can be able to use Zod inside the React hook form library. So after installing this, so let's open up our deal dialog.tsx. And first, what we need to do, we need to import these elements, and I'm going to try to explain, to do my best to explain what is happening in here. So the first thing that we're going to do, we need to create our schema. So we're going to use the z.object, and this is the schema that we are going to be creating. Since we are going to do the tracking only for the three elements, and we're not going to do it for the status, priority, and salesperson, because there is no need to do this, because we already have an item that is by default selected. So we're going to do only for the things that could be empty. And for our case, we're having the contact date, the custom name, and the sale value. So the contact date, so this is how we are going to see if the date has been selected or not. So we're going to use .date, and we're going to use .define. For the custom name, we're going to use .string, and where the only requirement here is if the if we set a number of characters that is less than one. And finally, the sales value, we're having the number and the positive. So this could be changing and updated because we're going to use another library to be able to format the uh, the uh, the the sale value, because it doesn't make any sense to just because it's going to be an amount value and we want to be formatted automatically. So we might introduce another library to be able to do this successfully without going through the headache of doing this by ourselves. And finally, we are going to infer the dialog schema to the form data type because we're going to use this inside the onSubmit function. So after this, what we're going to do here, as you can see, we added the form provider inside the, we wrapped our form inside the form provider. So the reason why we're doing so, just to avoid like passing the prompts or the prompt drilling. So this that's what it's called. And we're going to use eventually the context API. And instead of creating our context API, the library is providing for us this pattern, so we can be able to just plug it in our code, and just you're ready to go. So here, this is what we are doing. So we can be able to use the to be able to use the methods within all the components here and avoid using the prompts. So we're going to use the form provider. So the methods, so that's why I commented this, just to show you what's inside the methods. The inside methods that we're going to use are these elements, and also they're going to be other objects depending on the situation that we are in. Um, so here we are going to, instead of using this whole object like this, we're going to use this method. Then we are going to deconstruct this method in other child component as I'm going to show you. And here we are creating the onSubmit function, and it's going to require the data as a prompt of the form data type that it is inferred from the dialog schema. So here, as I said, we are just logging in this out. And I'm gonna start by talking or going to the child components. But first, I want to show you the onSubmit function to be able to trigger the onSubmit. We are going to use the method dot handle submit, and we're going to pass in the onSubmit function, which is this function. So let's start by the custom name. So and here, to be able to use the method I showed you from the parent component within the child component, we need to use the use form context. So the use form context, so you can be able to access to the elements from the parent component without needing the use of the prompts. So if you are a little bit, if you don't understand how it works, so you might first start with the context API that is provided by React, so you can be able to know the pattern before you can start using this. But as you create projects and do some exercises, you will be able to handle this efficiently and to know how things are working. So here we are going to use the register and the form state, and we're going to use inside of it the errors object. See, the register, we're going to use it inside the input, and we're going to use the custom name key, which is the same key that we used inside the schema. And the reason why we're doing this, you can be able to track the actual input. And here we are going to use the errors object with the custom name key. So this, if it is not undefined, then we can be able to access to this block to be able to show the error that we defined in our schema in this key, which is the customer name is required. This is what we got in our input. So now we're going to go to the contact date. So the contact date, it's going to be a little bit different because here we are going to use the calendar component, which is a customized component. So we can't be able to use the register function or object inside the calendar. To be able to do this, again, React Hook Form is providing us with numerous elements just to be able to handle each situation. So here, instead of using register, we're going to use the set value and the clear errors. And again, we're going to use the use form context to be able to access to these elements from the parent component since this child component is within the form provider. So here what we're doing, we are going to create this handle data change, which is going to be linked to the onSelect. So previously what we're having the onSelect property is linked to the set date. So now it's going to be linked to the handle date change. And this is what we are going to do. We are going to pass in the select date of type date. So it could be date or it could be undefined. And then we are going to update our date by using the set date. And then we're going to use the set value. And here we are going to use the key that we set in our schema and the selected date. And if the selected date is selected, then we're going to clear the error. So the reason why we did so, like for example, if we're having an error like this, and if we select, so if we don't use this if statement, so the error is going to be still here because we are doing the tracking by ourselves manually. So it's not done automatically like I showed you inside the input tag. And here we are going to use this use effect hook just to make sure that when the actual form is opened up or mounted, we are going to set the value and we are going to clear the errors. So I'm just logging things out here just to know that everything is working well. So this is for the second component. And finally, for the sale value, so we're going to use the same principle that we did um, for the customer name, but here we're going to use the value as a number since the type of the input it's going to be number. So this is basically how we can be able to set our schema and the validation process using the React hook form for for the actual dialog. So the next thing that I'm gonna be adding is the formatting for the sale value input. So now we can be able to format automatically the actual amount that we're typing inside the input. Like for example, as you can see, as I'm typing, things are going to be formatted automatically for us. Plus I added this dollar sign in here. And also when we click on add cell and the input is still empty, so we're going to have the error in here. And so what we're going to be using is the React number format library. So it is a popular library. As you can see, it has many downloads every single week. And also I'm going to show you how to be able to use it with the Shadcn component, the input component, and also along with the React hook form and the Zod library. So the first thing that we're going to do, we're going to be adding all of this code inside the sale value key. And so we're updating our dialog schema. And then we're going to go to the contact date. And here we're going to be also adding some of the things. So, sorry, we're going to go to the sale value. And the first thing that we're going to be adding is the controller from the React hook form. And also, of course, we're going to add the numeric format, the new package that I showed you. And also, I just added the dollar sign or icon from the React icons library. So here, this is what we're going to be doing. So it's going to be very different since we're going to use the numeric format um, functional component or component, and we're going to use the input, which is the Shadcn component inside the custom input. And to be able to make this working, so we're going to use this inside this render function within the controller component that we added or that is coming from the React hook form component, and also make sure to add the control from the use form context. So the control it's going to be added in it's going to be added in here. So after doing this, you will be able to see the formatted working successfully. And finally, for the dollar logo, so I added it all the way at the bottom, and it's going to have the absolute position, and also make sure to add the relative within this div, just to make sure that it's going to stay within this actual div or the parent div. And then we're going to be adding the right and the top position just to be able to position it right in here. So as you can see, even though that we're using an external component, so we can still be tracking the error if this sale value is not valid or it's empty. And just to show you in the console log, even if when I click on the add cells, we're not going to see any object, but when I choose to fill everything up and I click on add cell, so here we're gonna be having our object showing up successfully in our logout, meaning that everything went great. So after we set the validation and the schema for our dialog, the next thing that I want to show you when I click on add sales, so let's fill in all the all the values or all the inputs, and let's click on add sale. So here in the console log, as you can see, all we're having right now, all the information. Before, the only thing that I showed you is the inputs that we were working on when we were adding the validation and the schema. So now we're having all the fields or all the properties that we want, so we can be able to add this into our table. And I did so many minor updates to our code to be able to make this working. So when I click on the cancel and I open up again the actual dialog, as you can see, everything is going to be set to the default value and the inputs are going to be cleared out. So let's go back to our VS Code. I'm going to show you everything that I did to be able to do this. So I'm going to start from the deal dialog.tsx, and here, as you can see, add in or what I did like before, the selected priority and the selected status and the selected salesperson were in their functional components. But right now, I added them or I moved them into their parent components, and then I passed them down into their respective components. Like for the status, I added them like this as prompts, the same for the priority and the same for the salesperson. So now let's go to the priority to be able to get this from the parent component. We need to add them as prompts like this. And here just to make things clear and clean inside the at the header of our function, I added the types of the elements inside the selected priority props, and I added in here. And for the remaining code, so it's gonna stay the same. So the same thing that I did for the status, so we need to add the prompts to be able to get the values from the parent component. And also, I did the same thing for the salesperson. So for the salesperson, here I did the same thing. I took the actual selected salesperson. I moved it uh, uh, to the parent component and I use the prompts as you can see. So the only thing here it's going to be different is the string. So there, before in the priority.jsx, one thing that I didn't mention, so we're using the sales priority from the um, types.js, and also make sure to export these types to make them usable in the components in here, but also inside the deal dialog.jsx. So I did the same thing for um, the salesperson, or sorry, for the status. So I called the sales status from this types.js folder, and I used it in here, as you can see, and also I used it here. So I used it in here. So I am asserting the selected status as the sales status. So it's going to have the in progress by default, and for the priority, it's going to have the low element or item by default. And also one thing that I did, so what I want to do here, I'm gonna add the export keyword, and instead of using this, instead of using this array from here, what I can do just to avoid uh, repetition. So I'm going to import this from the parent dialog, which is the deal dialog.jsx. So after doing all of these things, then what we're going to do, we're going to go back to our dialog.jsx. And so here, what we're going to do, we're going to add these element, the sales value. So it's gonna be 0.0 since it can accept the float values, and the customer name it's gonna be empty. So that's the default value that we're gonna be adding inside the use form hook. And then we are going to be creating this new object. So here we're going to use the nano ID package. So all you have to do is just uh, type in the npm install nano ID, and this what it's going to do for us. It's going to generate for us ID. So we need to import the nano ID from this package, and then we're going to be using it inside the ID. And here the new cell, it's going to be the cell type, and just for type safety, and then we're going to be adding the elements depending on the structure that we created inside the cells type. So we're going to have the priority, the cells person, and the stages are going to come from the values or from the states that we moved up here. So that's why we moved them up here to be able to do this rather than using them within their component. And also when we are gonna work on the modification or the edit of the actual deal, so it's not going to be a bigger of a deal if we use this inside the child components. So here we are going to extract the sales value from the data, and also the contact date from the data as well, and the customer name from the data. And then we're going to assign them into their respective properties. So notice here we're using the toString because the deal value we set it as a string when we define the type, the cell type. And here we are converting this to the to-date string and for the customer name. So there is no need to do any of that because since the customer name has already been defined as a string, and here I'm just logging out the new cell that I showed you in the console log previously. And here I'm adding this handle dialog console. So this handle dialog console is going to be linked to the open change. So the reason why I'm doing so I want when the user cancels or click on the cancel button, I want to reset all the inputs that we used inside the use form hook, but also I want to set all the states that we added. I want to reset them or to set them by their default states that we did up here. So this is basically how we can be able to do all of these things that I showed you. So now we can be able to safely add our deal or our cell into the table. So one last thing, so inside the cells data.js, so since we added the ID, as you can see, I added the ID inside the cell type. So make sure to add the ID here for each object to be able to we're going to use the nano ID to be able to generate random ID for each element inside the ID property. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to add the Zustand library so we can be able to add the object or the new cell into our table. So the next thing that I did is right now we can be able to add a cell and also all the information that we're having, like the cards and the elements inside the table are going to be changing. So I'm going to show you what's going to happen when I add a new cell. So let's add a new one. So I'm going to just type in test, and also I'm going to type random amount, and I'm going to change the priority, and let's change the status to closed, and I'm going to add a new cell. So as you can see, we're going to have this notification. We're going to use Shadcn for this, and also notice that all the information here were updated. And also the actual element has been added successfully in here. So we're going to use Zustand for this to be able to manage the state of the whole application, and also to make sure that everything is going to be changing whenever we add or delete or modify a cell. So let's go back to the VS Code. And the first thing that you should do is to install um, Zustand. So it's very easy. Just type in npm install Zustand like this, and the actual package is going to be installed. So after installing Zustand, the first thing that we need to do, we need to create the use sales store. So this is how Zustand works. So first we're going to import the create element from Zustand, and after that we're going to create our custom hook, which is the use sales store, and we're going to use the create that we added up here, and the interface, it's going to be sales app state. So those are the types for the elements by now that we are having. So we're having the all sales, which is going to be an array of sales type, the load all sales, so it's a promise, so it's a simple function to be able to load the actual sales. I'm going to show you everything down here. And finally, we're having the add sale function. So that's its signature. So it's going to have the new sale as a parameter of the type sale type, and it's going to be a promise returning an object or a Boolean success. So here inside this Zustand element or create object, so we're going. So this is going to be uh, implicit function. So first, the all sales is going to be an empty array. And so whenever we are calling this load all sales, so what we are doing, we're going to fetch the all sales, or we're going to call the function fetch all sales. And then we're going to update like this, the all sales with the return array that is stored inside the fetch sales. And the fetch all sales, it's going to be the sample function. So we're just simulating the call of the API by using a promise, and this is how we are going to do to be able to simulate this by using the set timeout. And here for the add cell function, so it's going to accept a new cell, and here we're going to use this try and catch block. So here I'm just using the final keyword. So I did this because we are going to use the loading state to be able to see this loading uh, inside the button whenever we click in, just simulating the call of the server whenever we are adding or deleting or modifying the cell. So here what we're doing, we're going to use the set, and we're going to update our all sales area like this. So we're going to use the state here object, which is the previous state, and here we're going to use only the all cells, and we're going to add the new cell coming from the argument up here. So once we created our use cell store, and we know now how we can be able to use Zustand, the second thing that we're going to do, we're going to do some modification inside the deal dialog. So the first thing, of course, so we need to call, or before I start showing you this inside the deal dialog.jsx, I want to show you how to be able to use the all sales array that we created inside the table area. So let's go to the table area, and here as you can see we're going to call the all sales and the load all sales from the use sales store. And down here what we're going to do, we're going to just use the use effect hook. So whenever the this component is mounted, it's going to call the load all sales, uh, which is going to populate all the information inside the all sales as I showed you inside the use sales store. So once we're having the information, So we need to use all sales. This is where we stored all the information. So instead of using the sales data, so we're gonna replace the sales data that we were having in here with the all sales, and the same thing that I did in here. And so this it's gonna remain the same since we're gonna use the filtered data the same way that we did. The only thing that is different here is the all sales inside this function. And also make sure to add the all sales in here inside all the top item. So instead of using the sales data, which is fixed, so now we are going to use the all sales, which is dynamic. So whenever the elements are changing in here, also the numbers are going to be changing in here as I showed you when I added a new deal. So after doing this, then we are going to go back to our deal dialog.jsx. And the first thing that we should do, we're going to use the add cell. So we need to call it from the use cell store. So we're going to use it inside the onSubmit function. But before I start showing you this, I made a slight adjustment of the states that we're using inside the dialog. So here I added the open and the set open, and I assigned these here. So the open is going to be assigned to the open state in here, and the also I got rid from the parameter here, and the handle dialog close, it's going to be also added inside the on-click event listener of this button. So uh, technically speaking, so I need to add this here. So whenever we are canceling our, so this is going to be, this is going to be done automatically because we're using the open state up here within, or we link this with the open property of the dialog. So it's going to be done automatically. So sorry for this. So after this, what we're going to do, we're going to use this method that we got from the use cell store, which is the add cell, and we're going to use it inside the onSubmit function. So here, this is what we're going to do. We are going to use the await keyword because the add cell is a promise. So we're going to use the add cell, and we're going to pass inside of the add cell the object that we created in here. And since it is returning success, which is a Boolean, so here we are going to format these cells so we can be able to get that type of structure of the amount like this. And then if the result is true, meaning that it is successful, then we're going to show the toast that I showed you when I added a new cell. And here we're going to add the formatted value like this inside the description. So make sure to add the backticks and to be able to use it as a variable inside the string. So we're going to use the $sign and the curly braces in here. So to be able to use the toast, so it's very simple. So the Shadcn website, they're having a simple tutorial how to be able to do this. So you need to install this by using this command. And then we're going to place the toaster in your layout.jsx. So this is what I did. So I placed it up here and also make sure to import it from here. And after this, you can be able to call the use toast and then deconstruct the use toast and use the toast object. And this is what I did if we go back to the deal dialog. So here I added the toast object by using the use toast, and this is how we can be able to use this toast. And finally, we are going to call again this handle dialog close to be able to reset all the elements, all the inputs, and close the actual dialog in here. And finally, I'm going to show you how to be able to update the all the numbers in here. So what we're going to do, we're going to go to the component where we saved the cards. So it's called the stats cards. And here again, we're going to call the all states. So so this it's going to remain the same. The only thing that is going to be different, all the functions that we're going to be adding inside the object or each object. For the total sales, what we're going to do, so we're going to do the calculation and we're going to use the JavaScript functions within the object. So here we're going to use the reduce to be able to calculate the amount of the cells. And the first thing that we need to do, we need to parse all the elements because if we go to the sales data, so the amounts of the deal value um, are string. So we're going to use, we need to first convert it to a float, and after that, as you can see, so this is what I was looking for. So we're using the deal value for each element to be able to do the incrementation. And then we're going to use the local strings so you can be able to format it like this. And the object, the second object, so it's going to be very easy. So we're going to filter each element by the status is equal to in progress, and we're going to extract the length, and we need to convert it to string. And finally here, what we're going to do here, we are going to be able to calculate the conversion rate. We are going to know the numbers of the closed sales divided by the all sales length. So the closed sales I calculated just up here just to make sure that this code's not going to be crowded. So I added the closed sales in here to be able to filter only the sales that has the status as closed. And this is the calculation, and I'm using the toFix to just get only the two numbers after the point. And here I'm using the percentage sign. So and this is basically how we can be able to do this. So hopefully that I explain everything in here. So the next thing that I'm going to add is the deletion of the deal or of the sale. So now we can be able to delete the element that we want. So I'm going to show you how things are working. So let's choose this one, for example, and let's open up the drop down and click on edit. So we're going to have this dialog or this alert dialog. And when I click on the delete, so so we're going to have the notification, but also the element, it's going to be deleted as well. And notice that the states or the numbers up here are changing as well. So let's go back to our VS Code. So the first thing that we need to do, we need to install the alert dialog component from Shadcn. So after doing so, uh, what I did, so before I show you the code to be able to um, or the code of the alert dialog, which is, so let me open this up. So this is the file. So before I showed you this, the first thing that I did, we need to do some stuff inside the use sales store. So here what I did, I added different things for our interface and those things that we're gonna work with. So I added the open delete dialog because we need a state to be able to rely upon to know whether the actual dialog is going to be opened up or not. And we added the selected sale. So this we're gonna use it to be able to store the element or the row that we want to delete, and the set selected cell. So it's going to be, of course, a function that is going to accept the selected cell, and it's going to be of type void. So it's going to be a normal function. So I added the is loading state, And also I added the set open delete dialog to be able to close the actual dialog and to update the open delete dialog. So after adding these, so for these states where we are storing some values, we need to set some default values of them. And also I added the set open delete dialog, so that's how we are going to update the open delete dialog by using the set object. And also the same thing for the selected cell, we're using the set object as well. And the selected cell, it's going to be updated based on what we put in our argument in the function. And finally, so this is the delete function. So the first thing that we're going to do, so we're going to rely on the cell ID. So we need the ID of the cell, which is added in the parameter or the argument of the function. So the is, so we're going to update the is loading state to true. Then we're going to use the try and catch block. So I think that normally this need to be added inside the try and catch block. And here we're going to create a new promise to simulate the process of deletion with a delay, like calling an API, calling the API to be able to delete or the server to be able to delete the function. And then we are going to update the all states like this. And then we are going to return the object success as true. And finally, we are going to set this selected cell as null and the is loading to false. So after updating our the use cell store, so then I'm going to show you the deal dialog and how it is working. So before that, we need to make sure that this deal dialog it's going to be added down up here inside the page.jsx, since now we are going to to control the opening and the closing of the dialog. So we need to add it to add the component in here. So after doing this, so let me close this and let me open up the deal dialog. But before this, I need to show you the drop down. So because the first step, if we go to our application, so let me reload the page to get all the data. So the first step that is happening in here is the open up of the dialog. So we need to trigger something when we click on the delete element. So this is what we're doing. So I added this handle clicked item function that is going to be linked to the onClick event listener, and we're going to pass inside of it the item.label. So of course we need to add the item as a parameter. So let me delete this log. So if the item is equal to delete, then we're going to update the selected cell with the row that original that is coming from the prompt. And if you forgot why we did so, if we go to our table, so let's go to our table and let's go to the let's go to the sales column. So at the end of our column area, as you can see, so the ID action, we are gonna call the action dropdown, which this dropdown that is opening up, and then we're going to pass inside of it the row that we clicked on. So this is why where this row is coming from, which is this one. So we're going to update the selected cell, and then we're going to open up the delete dialog. So we're gonna set it to true. So if we go to delete dialog, as you can see, we are calling the open delete dialog and the set open delete dialog. And this one, it's going to be linked to the open parameter of the alert dialog. So that's why when we set the open delete dialog to true, it's going to trigger this whole component to be in action. So, and this is the simple structure of the alert dialog. So nothing complex here, and you can get the structure just from here. So this is what I did. By the way, I just copied this here and I pasted it in here and I did the modification necessary to make everything working like you saw. So here in the open change and the unopened change, so whenever we change the opening or the state of the alert dialog, so we're going to call the set open delete dialog. And here, as you can see, I'm creating this function to be able to delete the function. So here we're going to use the delete cell from the use cell store that I showed you with the await keyword because it is a promise, and we're going to pass inside of it the selected cell.id. And so here, because we are waiting for a response, so only if the result is true, then we are going to show the toast. And also here we are using the if statement. So only if the selected cell is not null, then we can be able to execute this block. And finally, we're going to close the open delete dialog by using this line. And here at the bottom, we're going to add the onClick event listener that is going to be linked to the delete cell function. So if the is loading is true, we are going to show the deleting word with the three dots. Otherwise, we're going to show the delete. And also in the onClick event listener of the alert dialog cancel, only what we're going to do, we're going to set this to false to be able to trigger the closing of the actual dialogue. So the last thing that is remaining, I think, is the copying. So the editing is going to be very easy. So we're going to reuse the add function. So the thing that is going to need a little bit of work is the copy function. So after we can be able to add and delete cell, now we're gonna work on the modification of the cell. So the first step that I'm going to show you is how the logic that we are going to add in our code to be able to make this happening. So at this moment, the editing is not happening, but I wanna show you some of the things that are very important as the first step before we can make the update happening. So here, when we click on the edit, so we're going to have all the information of the row that we want to edit. So everything is loaded successfully into the actual actual dialog. So we're having the name of the customer name, the sales value, the status, the priority, and the contact date. As you can see, the date has been selected successfully and the name of the person based on the row that we selected. So just for testing purposes, when I click on the add new, so uh, I need to uh, I need to have all the information cleared out because I'm using the same dialog to be able to edit and to add a new cell. So first, let's show you all the process that I did to be able to create this. So let me close all the tabs just to show you everything step by step. And we're going to open up the use sales store. So this is where we're going to be adding some of the stuff. So we're going to be adding um, the open deal dialog and the set open deal dialog. So we're going to do the same thing for the delete dialog. And we're going to use the selected sale as that we created to be able to delete a deal. So we're going to use it to be able to store the row that we want to edit. And the next thing, we need to add them, of course, inside the function. So the open deal dialog is going to be false by default, and this is how we are going to be updating the open deal dialog state. And next, we're going to go to the action dropdown. So inside the action dropdown, we're going to be adding this if statement. So if the item is equal to edit, we're going to update the selected cell by the row that's original. And we're going to open up the open deal dialog. And to be able to use this, make sure to add it here while deconstructing all the elements from the use cell store. So after doing this, we're going to do, of course, some modifications in the deal dialog. As I said, since we're going to use the same dialog for adding and editing the cell. So the first thing that I did is I updated the open and the open on open change. So here, instead of just using the internal open state that I showed you, we're going to use the open deal dialog coming from the use sales store, and also inside the handle dialog close here, or um, sorry, at the bottom, what we are going to do here, we are going to add on the on-click event listener, the set open deal dialog where is going to be set to false. So after doing this, so we're going to use the selected cell and we're going to rely on it to be able to know whether we are going to show the new cell here and here. So let me click on the cancel and to show the edit and the edit cell. So this is also I need to update to edit when we want to edit a cell. So I'm going to do this. And here, this is what we are going to do. So first, let's start from the dialog title. So of course, we need to import the select or to use the selected cell from the use cell store. So if this is not null, meaning that we're going to edit our cell, so we're going to show the edit cell. Otherwise, we're going to show the new cell. And also, I need to update this one. So I'm going to add the same tyranny operator. So if the selected cell is not null, so we're going to use the edit word. Otherwise, we are going to use the new. And so I'm going to get rid from this. And finally, at the bottom, we're going to do the same thing in here. So we're going to use the same turn operator to be able to change the phrase to be depending on the state of the selected cell. And after that, what we're going to do, we're going to use this use effect hook. So whenever the actual dialog is opened up, we're going to see if the selected cell is null or not. So if it is null, if it is not null, we're going to update all of the keys that we set in our schema like this. And we're going to get the information from the selected cell. And we're going to use the customer name property to be able to assign it to the customer name key. And the same thing that I did for the contact date. So here we're using the new date. So you can be able to convert this into from string to a date because this was set in our schema as date. And finally, we're doing some parsing here to be able to because this is going to it's going to be a string, so we need to parse it into a float number because this cell value has a number type. And finally, we are going to update all of these of the priority, the status, and the salesperson by using the selected cell and its appropriate property. So that's why we added all of these elements from the child component into their parent component. So we want to be able to edit the cell, so we're not gonna run into any issue. Otherwise, if the cell select or the selected cell is not null, we're going to set these elements inside the that are inside the schema to their default value. So this is going to be empty and this is going to be 0.0. And we are going to listen to the open deal dialog and the selected cell. So if these are going to be changing, all of this is going to be executed. And so I think that I explained everything. So the last thing that I want to show you inside the contact date here inside the user vector hook. So we're going to do also another update for this so you can be able to get the date. And so we're going to rely on the selected cell as I did. And here we're going to store this inside the sales data. And here we're going to update the contact date key. So if this is not null, otherwise we're going to just use the date that we selected from the calendar. So this is basically how we can be able to do this. So the only thing and one last thing that I want to show you is uh, on the onSubmit function. So here I added this whole code inside this if statement. So if the selected cell is not null, meaning that we're going to be adding a new cell, so we're going to be adding it in here. Otherwise, we need to create a function to be able to update the cell. So if I left this as it was, so we're going to add the new cell even though that we want to edit a new cell. So this is what we don't want, and this is how we can be able to handle this situation. So now we can be able to execute the modification that we want. So let's pick this second row and let's click on the edit. And I'm going to add some, I'm going to edit everything in here just to show you that our everything's going to be updated. And I'm going to select another priority. So let's select another date and let's select another salesperson and click on edit. So as you can see, everything has been updated successfully as you can see in our table, but also everything in here are going to be updated as well since all the information are coming from the all sales array that we're using for this table. And also when I want to add a new table, as you can see, everything's gonna be emptied to be able to create a new element like this. So when I click on add cell, so it's going to be added successfully, and every time that I want to add, as you can see, we're going to have this loading text in here, just simulating the call of the API. So let's go back to our code, and I'm going to start from the use sales store. So the first thing that I added is this update sale function. So if we go all the way up to our sales update, the interface, so what I did, I added the signature of our function like this. So it's going to be pretty much the same like the add cell and the delete cell. So the only thing here, we are going to pass in the function, the updated cell, which is going to be the whole object of type cell type. This is the function, so it's pretty simple. So the is loading is going to be true first. Inside the try and catch block, we are going to create a promise, just simulating the process with a delay. Then we're going to update the all sales array like this. So we're going to access to the all sales array from the state, and here we are going to see if the cells that ID that is inside the array is equal to the update cell ID that is coming from the prompt. And if it is, we're going to take this whole object and update it with the ID that we found. Otherwise, for the remaining elements, they're gonna stay the same. So for them, the situation is going to be false. And finally, we're going to return an object. Success is true. And finally, we are going to set everything by their default state. So after doing this, we're going to go back to the deal dialog, and we're going to be adding these two elements, the update cell and the is loading state. So here inside the onSubmit function, as I showed you, so we're gonna be adding in this else block the cell to update. So here we are going to create our object where we're going to be storing all the information that we want to update before we pass them inside the update still. So we're taking the ID from the selected cell, and here for the contact date and the deal value and the customer name, we're taking them from the data, which is this one. And here we need to do some converting. So this is going to be converted to string, and this is going to convert to string like this, just to be able to get the amount formatted. And for the customer name, it's going to be the same since they have the same type, string and string. And we're going to take so we're going to assign the priority, the salesperson, the status from from what we stored inside these dates up here. And finally, we're going to take this whole object and we're going to pass it inside the update cell so we can be able to update our array as I showed you. So if the result is success, then we're going to show the toast like this, and we're going to close the actual dialog, and we're going to set the open deal dialog to false. So this is basically how we can be able to do this modification. So the next operation that I'm going to be adding is the copying. So the idea that I'm gonna be using the add sale. So I'm gonna be using the add sale function. So where is it? So that's the add cell that I'm going to be using, and I'm going to do the modification inside the action dropdown. So when I click on the copy element, it's going to trigger the actual function, and we're going to create a copy of the actual cell.